Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I wanted to just talk about Western Electric speakerphones, a little bit about the different types of speakerphones, and sort of their compatibility and usage. So the main two that I'm going to be talking about are 4A speakerphones and 3A speakerphones. And that basically consists of one of these modules, usually a 108A speaker, so they look about like this. This one's in green, but they came in a lot of different colors. And this is the transmitter. So in order to have a complete 4A speakerphone, you need the transmitter and a speaker. And so this has an on-off toggle. They also need a power supply and usually a connection block. This is one type of connection block. It basically has a specialty cord that looks like an Amphenol plug inside, which if you're wondering about Amphenol plugs, it's basically a 25 pair cable plug. So it looks like this, but the 4As have a bit of a specialty type plug. Then there's also 3A, which was a predecessor to 4A. So this is what the transmitter looks like. Obviously a bit bulkier than this transmitter. Both of them, if you press the on button, it mutes you. So the party that you're on the call with will not hear anything you're saying while that's being pressed down. And then off button, sort of same function. This one has a volume turn key instead of this knob. Overall, very similar functionality. The 3A has a little light bulb that lights up in this key, whereas this one has a little red light. I personally like the 3A a bit more, but they're way more expensive than a 4A. Both of them are still very collectible. 4A speakerphones you can usually find for about 100 to 200-ish currently, but the 3As are in the $600, $700 range if you're lucky, because you need to have a 55 type control unit, and that's a whole nother video if people are interested. The 4A though is the most common type that you'll see, and even those are still pretty rare. Also, a common misconception that I see a lot across different selling sites is people will list these as speakerphones. So these are other types of speakers. This one in particular is very common, 107 type loudspeaker. So these just simply connect into your telephone, and it has a volume turn key, and basically if you're on a call, this will amplify the audio so you can hear both sides. So basically you can talk into here and you'll hear it on the speaker, and the called party you can hear through the speaker. I personally have not actually ever connected one of these yet, but I probably will be getting one of them working eventually. The difference between a loudspeaker and a speakerphone is speakerphone has a built-in transmitter. So as you can see here, I can actually go on one of my key system lines and it activates all the equipment without needing to lift the handset. Whereas a loudspeaker, you still need to lift the handset and talk into the handset. Whereas a speakerphone, I can press one of the key lines, press the on button. Here you have volume control. And here's my intercom line. So these are a lot more advanced because they have a little microphone built into the bottom there, the little black hole in the middle. And anyway, so that's basically the gist of what the difference is between one of these loudspeakers and speakerphone, because I see that a lot where people mislabel them. This unit in particular, I'm pretty sure is hands-free answer on intercom or something to do with that. It's not technically a speakerphone, I don't think, even though it does seem to have a transmitter built into it. Because there were other systems for hands-free intercom use, so that then you could page someone on the intercom and have it automatically answer, and someone could talk wirelessly. So that was or not wirelessly, but without lifting a handset. So it would just automatically sort of turn on the speaker and there would be a buzz. And that's a whole nother thing. I'll be getting equipment like that working eventually on this channel. I don't have anything right now. Then another thing I'll just go into really fast in this video. I've already done a bunch of other videos though talking about speakerphone connections and wiring. So speakerphone wiring, you have, I think, 6 wires. I actually have a paper printed out. Here we go. So here's my little list, and here's a schematic that I've sort of drawn on that is a bit easier to understand. These schematics can get very annoying to look at sometimes because they're all in black and white, and it's just, ugh. I've created custom colorized schematics that are easier to understand and also will actually show you what it looks like versus this, which is just sort of a look at sort of where the wires go, but it doesn't really show you what the actual unit looks like. So this looks nothing like what the speakerphone or the connections look like. Anyway, speakerphone, you have T1, R1, pretty simple. Those get connected to tip and ring of whatever phone line. So if you have a single line set, it just gets connected to tip and ring. If you have a multi-line set, it needs to go to the key system output. And if you have a specific question about a certain type of key phone, I can answer that for you in the comments. So T1, R1. Also, for tone dial, T1 goes to the orange wire of the tone dial. So I guess I should have clarified that a bit more. As for rotary dial sets, it goes to your key system output or whatever tip and ring. If you're trying to actually do on-hook dialing, so being able to actually use the tone dial without lifting the handset, you need to put the tip T1 goes to the orange wire of the tone dial. So the orange wire of the tone dial goes through to the usually tip output of the key system or whatever phone you're using. So that way, even if the network is not powered, because when you hang up the handset, the network and everything goes dead, which is inside of the phone, so then the dial doesn't have power. And hence, that's why you need to power it through the orange wire of the tone dial. P3/IT, what's really annoying is P3 is not used. So if you have a tone dial, forget about P3. It's not even used, and that one, I don't think I have a colorized sheet right here. I can talk about more connections if people are interested. But basically, P3 and P4 are usually violet-brown, brown-violet in a key system plug. T1, R1 are usually violet-green, green-violet. And then AG, LK, those are usually violet, slate, slate, violet. LK is slate, violet. Anyway, so P3 is not used on not used on tone dials. For rotary dials, it's just sort of for show. Really, you don't need P3 or P4 for rotary dial phones. It's just simply, it closes, usually, so there's a special rotary dial for speakerphone use, and it has an extra set of muting contacts. So when you turn the rotary dial and let it go, it mutes the speakerphone by closing P3 and P4. But for tone dial, P4 is the violet lead on the tone dial. So the tone dial that are used for speakerphone will have a violet and orange lead, which are only used for speakerphone. But if you have a Princess phone, for instance, those dials do not have violet or orange. So you just have to see some telephone sets do not have violet or orange wires to actually power it for on-hook dialing. Then AG is the ground for the key system. So that's an output. So whatever wire that makes the line cards turn on, the easiest way is just simply connect AG to the brown wire of the hook switch. So if you trace the hook switch wires, the brown wire coming from the hook switch is where you want to connect AG, because the brown wire is what is giving ground to the key system through the hook switch. Then LK gets ground from the key system to pass through AG. So LK gets power from the slate wire of the hook switch. I could make a diagram eventually if someone wants, but the hook switch has 3 wires at the very end, and the middle one is yellow, then there's brown and slate. So yellow and brown close when you lift up the handset, and then yellow and slate close when the handset is down. So that way yellow is giving power to LK and the speakerphone can stay on. If you lift the handset, it turns off. So that's an automatic feature. If you don't want that, simply connect LK for the speakerphone to the yellow wire of the hook switch instead, and then it'll be always on, and you could use it even if you pick up the handset. I've done that, it works. I did that on this Princess phone. I actually got it working with speakerphone, so even if you lift the handset, the speakerphone stays on. Then AI or A1, I'm not, basically that is power for the speakerphone. So A1, depending on the connection block that you use, there's some that you simply plug in the key system plug, so the wire that comes from your key system into it, and then the plug from your telephone set goes into it, and then the plugs for the speakerphone. I have it somewhere, but it's buried right now, so I could get that if someone's interested in seeing what it looks like. Basically, for those, A1 is automatically terminated. A1 gets connected to orange-white, which is your main key system ground for most phones. So A1 is just simple, it's connected to orange-white. For some phones, if you're terminating it inside of here and using an extension plug, such as one of these plugs, you have to terminate the wires inside of the phone. And for those, I forget, it's either one of the orange-white or white-orange. Basically, that goes then to the yellow wire. To get your speakerphone to turn on, just simply connect LK and A1 together, and then it'll actually have power. If A1 is not connected, it'll buzz and act really weird. AG is just to power the key system. So to get your speakerphone to turn on, you need to make sure LK and A1 are getting a connection. Anyway, hopefully this video helps some of you who are having key system and speakerphone questions, and I'm happy to make another video if anyone's curious about a certain type of telephone, how connections can be found, how you can trace things. Just let me know. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the other videos on my channel.